Greetings, esteemed viewers. Yeah, Robot Wars is back! And what a brilliant reintroduction. I just got done watching it, the first episode that is, and I just want to give some of my thoughts, to have them sort of immortalized in video form, of what I think of this reboot of this show that I used to watch quite a lot when I was younger. I haven't put up anything on this YouTube channel in, what, 7 years, maybe longer than that. So that alone should give you some indication of how stoked I am for this, just for the very fact that I'm going out of my way to do this. I'm going to talk about the reboot in general to start off with, sort of my impressions on like the new hosts and the new house robots and that kind of thing. And then I'm going to talk about the first episode in particular. I'm also not going to go into a lot of detail over what Robot Wars is. I'm just going to presume you're basically familiar with it. I mean, it's a show where robots fight each other. That's basically all there is to it. So I don't really think there's a lot of knowledge I really need to fill you in on. I mean, you get the basic idea. And so, yeah, let's dive right in, shall we? Back in the 90s, Robot Wars. Friday nights at 6 o'clock, BBC Two, The Simpsons would come on. And then I'm pretty sure after that there was another programme that would take it to 6:45. I think it was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Or I could be wrong, because I've also heard that Robot Wars came on at 6:30, which would have been right after The Simpsons. I don't know, because I'm so old. But anyway, Friday nights, Robot Wars would come on. It would just be this... It was every week. It was this event. And it was fantastic. Seeing, as a young kid then, these robots just annihilating each other. It was terrific entertainment. So, on with what I think of this return. The hosts. Dara O'Brien is the main host. And when I first heard that, I was like, wait, Dara O'Brien? Really? Because he hosts Mock the Week, he hosts The Apprentice You're Fired. Well, he used to host The Apprentice You're Fired. But he also hosts, what's that one show? It's not The Sky at Night. It's with Professor Brian Cox. It's Stargazing Live. That's it. And when I watched Stargazing Live, I really thought, actually, Dara O'Brien can be a serious presenter. I mean, obviously, he likes to crack jokes because he's a comedian. But it was sort of, well, yeah, okay, he can be a bit more serious at times when he wants to be a serious presenter. And that's what I liked about the old presenter, Craig Charles, because the first series of the old Robot Wars was presented by Jeremy Clarkson, and you really got the impression that he didn't take the show seriously at all. He was always making, the kind of comments that Jeremy Clarkson is known to make. And for the second series onwards, they brought in Craig Charles. And he would show such enthusiasm. He would take the contestants seriously. He would take this event, Robot Wars, seriously. And that really added something. You could see it coming across, and that was fantastic. He was a great host. It wasn't quite the same with Dara O'Brien, but I thought, yeah, I do like Dara O'Brien. I thought, yeah, okay, yeah, he did a very good job. Would I have preferred to see Charles back? I can't possibly say. Maybe he was even approached to do it, but they couldn't get him because I think they brought Red Dwarf back recently. He might be working on that, and he obviously has to work on Coronation Street. I don't know. No disrespect to the man, but I don't think not getting Craig Charles back for this is any particular great loss. Dara O'Brien did a very good job. There was never the indication that he was at all mocking Robot Wars or the contestants, or that he didn't take it seriously. He did a good job. And his co-host was Angela Scanlon, who I know absolutely nothing about. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, so I can't really commentate, but she did a very good job too. She was the pit reporter, which was the role of, who was it, Philippa Forrester in the old series, and they basically report from the pit where all the robots are repaired before they go into battle and that kind of thing. And yeah, she did a very good job too. The hosts did a very good job. Now, when I first heard that Robot Wars was coming back to television, I thought, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Great, they're bringing it back. It's probably going to be good. I'll probably watch it, yeah. It'll be good. I expect them to change a few things and all that, yeah, it'll be good. And then I heard that Jonathan Pierce was being brought back to commentate. And I was just like, you can't see it right now, but my mouth is agape. Jonathan Pierce is a football commentator, and he has this very, very enthusiastic, like, if you've heard him commentate a football game, you know who Jonathan Pierce is. And he has a very distinct style. He's very enthusiastic, very loud, very, very, very energetic, and he was the old commentator for Robot Wars, and that's where I first knew him from. And then I started to, because, I didn't watch football when I was a kid, and as I've grown up, I've watched a few football games, like I watched the Euro tournament recently, where he did some of the games there. And as I watched some more of these games, I thought, oh, hang on, that's the guy who commentated Robot Wars. And that's where I first knew him from. So to have him back is just, what a blast from the past. It's just a boon. It really is. That really struck me as, okay, this could really be something great. If they're going to this degree to get him back, they must know what a good job he did. And he did do a good job. He was brought just the same amount of enthusiasm as he does in his football game. And I don't really care about football. I'll watch football between international teams occasionally, but Jonathan Pierce has an ability, through his enthusiasm, he makes you enthused in whatever he's commentating. He could commentate paint drying and make it interesting. And that's the mark of a good commentator. They will pull you in through their enthusiasm for whatever's happening and make you care about it too. Like, I will watch a football game just to hear Jonathan Pierce's commentary. Like, it's that good. It's that entertaining in and of itself. Like, especially when someone scores. But I digress. Absolutely brilliant choice. I'm so pleased they got him back. Okay, so that's what I think of the hosts. But let's discuss now the real stars of the show. The house robots. Yes, the house robots are awesome. They're the robots that are in the arena they're against everyone. They have their own patrol zones, and they're there to cause trouble. And they're always on the show. They were like the breakout characters of Robot Wars almost. They had their own personalities, and they were all horribly evil, and they were just great fun to see them just smash people. And the show would take them seriously. They would talk about them as if they were actual characters. You'd say, oh, you know what he's like, what a temper they've got, kind of thing. And it's good. When Robot Wars first started, they had 4 of them. They had Matilda, Dead Metal, Shunt, and Sergeant Bash. And then I think from Series 2, was it 2? I think from Series 2 onwards, they brought in Sikillalot. And then they added gradually more as the series went on, and eventually jumped the shark, but we won't talk about that. So, yeah, the 5 most memorable house robots are probably those 5 that I've mentioned. And they showed off this video on the BBC iPlayer, sort of reintroducing the house robots for this new series. And it was just great to see them all back again. Apparently I don't know if they've been remade completely from scratch, but they've been rebuilt, basically. Maybe they took the old ones apart or something, but they're back. They look very much the same as they always had. You have Shunt, who's got the big scoop and the ram and the pickaxe that comes down. Yeah, he looks great, except now part of his chassis is apparently, I think, yellow? It's not really bad, it just looks it's just a very odd change. I don't know, all the house robots never had a lot of colour on them previously. They were just, this dull grey finish, which I thought it was appropriate because it showed that they're neutral and then they're going to go after anyone and everyone who comes near them. Except for Sergeant Bash, I believe, because since he had a military theme, he had this camouflage on his flanks. Yeah, apart from him, I think most of the other house robots were just, this dull metallic grey. But he is apparently sporting yellow highlights now. But yeah, in this video when they showed him off, he came up and just went completely to town on a washing machine. I thought, whoa, hang on, is that a real washing machine? Yeah, because you look at these robots and you think, oh yeah, they're maybe, so big. And then you probably think, actually no, if I'm being realistic, they're probably a bit bigger than that. And then you see them compared to a washing machine and you think, whoa, these things are colossal. Just brutal. I had no idea that the house robots were quite that big. But yeah, Shunt looks great. On to Dead Metal. Dead Metal has always been my favourite house robot. He just looks, so evil, and he's like, the robot equivalent of a cross between a scorpion and a hedgehog. And as far as I can tell, apart from, everything being a bit more modernised, and I think his circular saw has changed a little bit, he barely looks any different, and I'm so pleased. There was very little need to change anything about him, and they didn't change anything about him as far as I can tell, so he's still looking pretty good. Then you've got Matilda. Oh, Matilda. Matilda's kind of like the breakout character of Robot Wars, because, I said all of the house robots had their own individual personalities. Matilda, who is a she, don't you know, she is just this mean, angry, bad-tempered robot triceratops. She used to have a sort of like a chainsaw for a tail, because, it was very much tail-shaped. And then a competitor robot named Razor basically destroyed her, like ripped her apart and set her on fire, and she needed to be completely rebuilt. I remember they even had a little memorial for her at the end of that particular episode. One of the most memorable moments from Robot Wars for me. And when she was rebuilt, they gave her a circular saw. I think it might have actually been because they were having problems with the chainsaw tail. It didn't work properly or something like that. I remember hearing something like that long ago. But since then, she had a circular saw. And then later on in the old series, I think the circular saw became red. And that's what first struck me as odd with this new Matilda that they've shown off, whose circular saw is also red. I thought, hang on, are they just trying to highlight a little bit of, give the house robots a little bit of colour, like, oh, Shunt is yellow now, and Matilda's saw will be red. But apparently it was red in the old series, at least for a time as well, so, alright, fine, Matilda has a red saw now. And basically, she just looks meaner. That's what she looks. She looks just meaner, covered in more spikes and spines and things. But yeah, Matilda's back. Good old Matilda's great to see her again. Okay, then on to Sir Killalot. Sir Killalot is like the biggest, baddest house robot there is, apart from some of those other house robots they added towards the waning end of the old series, which we don't talk about because they were kind of bad. But yeah, Sir Killalot is like the king of the house robots. And everyone loves Sir Killalot, and apparently now they've made him much, much faster. His lance, I think, is actually a little bit shorter than it used to be. I might be wrong on that. And his huge, what is it, like a hydraulic claw? That looks absolutely gigantic now. I don't think it was anywhere near that big before. But the one thing they've changed about him that I'm not so keen on is his face. Because, he's called Sir Killalot, and he has a lance, and he's based on, a knight. And so in the old series, his face looked very much like a knight's helmet. Here, though, he's looking more like, I don't know, a Cylon from Battlestar Galactica or something. With these pipes coming out of the side, and I don't know, he just looks... I'm not keen on his face. I'm not keen on his facial makeover at all. But when I look at him, I still do see Sir Killalot. So he's back. The house robots are back, and that's still a great, great thing. Now, you'll remember me saying that there were 5 house robots throughout much of the old series, because, I'm not really counting any of the other house robots they added later on, like the Refbot. But in this new series, they've only got 4 house robots, the ones I've already mentioned. And the participant missing in action here is Sergeant Bash. Sergeant Bash, in the old series, he had a saw on the back, a claw on the front, and his main weapon was a turret-mounted flamethrower, which was basically kind of a gimmicky weapon, because I don't think it could pivot down to shoot very, very short robots. It was kind of useless. It would barely cause any damage, and I think the most use he ever got out of it was against Nemesis in one of the episodes, where he set... Nemesis is a robot who was covered in this pink and black fur, and he basically burnt it all off. That was so funny, but apparently, I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently they would have problems with it, because it had, a gas canister and all that. but they could never get it to work half the time, and it was basically just for spectacle. That's all it was. The robots would come up to him, he would bash into them a bit, as his name suggests, and then shoot out a burst of flame, just to, show that he could, I suppose. So, maybe he was left out of the new series because of budget? I'm thinking budget. It's kind of like, well, we're not sure if this new series of Robot Wars is going to be a hit, so you've got this amount of budget, and you can bring back 4 house robots, and then you look at the main 5, which, you're going to pick from the first 5 house robots, and you're like, which 4 do we pick? Well, we've got to have Kill-A-Lot, everyone loves Kill-A-Lot, we've got to have Matilda, we're probably going to have Shunt and Dead Metal, so sorry, Sergeant, you've got the axe. And I think Sergeant Bash was the house robot you would see least in the old series. You would see all the others quite a lot of the time, but Sergeant Bash got the least screen time. And that's really a shame, because he's my second favourite house robot, right after Dead Metal. I like his design, there's something, I don't know. I'm disappointed he's been left out of the new series, but I guess if it was done for budget reasons, or maybe it really was to do with the fact that they didn't want to have to work with a flamethrower or something, I do understand why it was made. Maybe we'll see him in a future series. I definitely hope we see him in a future series, but for now, the good Sergeant is AWOL. So, Sergeant Bash, you can't see it right now, but I am actually literally saluting the Sergeant. I salute you, yes. Okay, so, alas for Sergeant Bash, but okay, now some more specific thoughts on what I thought of the first episode, which, as I said before, I've just finished watching. Yeah, so there are going to be spoilers ahead. Overall, I was very, very impressed. Never once was there... I really thought a concept like Robot Wars just wouldn't work in today's age of, digital media and all that kind of thing. And I didn't think it would be popular now that we have, smartphones and the internet and things like that. But it really... It retained that visceral appeal of just watching some cobbled together robots smash each other to pieces. And I don't watch a lot of television these days, and apparently television, not television programming, but television itself, as in actually sitting down and watching television, is less popular now than it's ever been. A lot of people watch their television programs online or on demand, and I'm really no different. There's very few programs I'll actually go out of my way to watch nowadays. But this is my new jam now. Yes, that's what people say, isn't it? My new jam, this delicious jam of destruction. And you can serve me up some of that on some toast, and I'm probably taking this analogy a bit too far, but it was great. It didn't at any point feel like they'd made some kind of arbitrary change to appeal to today's demographic, or what have you. There were never any changes that felt like they were made simply to make it more hip, if you will. They actually changed very little. I appreciated greatly the amount of continuity with the old series. The logo is very similar. They've retained all the old catchphrases like 3, 2, 1, activate and all that, which I greatly appreciate. And of course they brought Jonathan Pierce back, and they have the same sort of format. They still have we're going to show you the statistics of this robot, we're going to, have this little graphic and show you what they're all about, show you where the team's from and all that, introduce each robot individually. They didn't bring the old theme song back, which I quite like, but that's no great loss. And of course, as I've already said, there's a lot of continuity with the designs of the house robots, so it really did feel like this series picked up almost exactly where the old one left off. It's like it had never been away. In the old series, they would also sometimes have, like in the earlier series, they would also sometimes have tugs of war, they would have obstacle courses, they would have, I think they would also have races sometimes, and it was a bit like techno games. Remember techno games? I'm not sure if anyone does. But it was more a bit like that, and as its popularity started to grow, they would gradually phase that out and just have knockouts and head-to-heads and things like that. And that's what they brought back here, which is probably a good decision. I didn't dislike the whole obstacle courses and variety and things like that, but it's probably for the best. If they want to get off strong, they should bring back what people really loved about Robot Wars, which is just robots going at it. That's what people love about it. A few other observations I noticed. When you hit the buttons on the side of the arena, the pits, whereas in the old series they would gradually descend, here they go shumph, straight down, and then it's just, they're an instant threat rather than, you're having to wait for them to fully open up. So there was that. I was a bit surprised to see that they would only have one house, in the first few rounds they only had one house robot in the arena with the competitors. Then later on they brought out two at a time. Whereas in the old series, I think it was always, you'd have one in each corner, which is one of the reasons why I thought they might have limited it to 4 house robots instead of 5. Like, well, we only have 4 corners to the arena, so we only really need 4 house robots at any one time. I guess maybe it would have been a bit overkill if they're going right with 4 per match right at the start. That's not a criticism or anything, it's just an observation. It was absolute brilliance to see some of the old veteran teams and robots competing again. Razor was back. They were, it was fantastic to see them again. Unfortunately, they went out in the first round. Their opponent that they were trying to dump into the pit took them down with them, which isn't it always the way? I mean, you wait 12 years for Robot Wars to come back. Probably the most anticipated competitor robot there is, or at least one of the most memorable. I mean, I remember Razor because Razor destroyed Matilda in incredible fashion. And he goes out in the first round. So, yeah, I was really disappointed for Razor. I mean, it's an easy mistake to make, to go down in the pit yourself when you're trying to dump someone else in there, but you just wish it hadn't happened. You wish to see what could have been in the rest of the matches if Razor hadn't gone out so early. It was a big upset. It was good to see Behemoth back too. It's obviously not the same machine, but like, that was the big long robot with the scoop at the front and the black and yellow stripes. I remember that. So it's good to see these old teams and these old robots coming back and bringing back something that everyone can instantly recognize. Oh, I remember that, yeah. And of course, another thing that is so great about Robot Wars is you have the oddball competitors. Here, it was Team Nuts with their robot of the same name, Nuts. And it really was. It was just that. It was nuts. It spun all over the place. It was self-righting itself. It's got like these turny things on its wheels so that it never gets tipped over. And it was just spinning, and it had these deployable mini cluster bots. So it was 3 robots in one, which I'm not even sure if that's a virtue of advanced technology nowadays, where that kind of thing wouldn't have been viable before. But I thought, wow, that's actually really interesting. What an interesting robot, and everyone loved them. They stole the show in many ways, and they got destroyed in the arena, just smashed to pieces, and still for their final match they managed to cobble this thing together and throw it back out there, and it fell to bits again. It was just fantastic. There were wheels flying all over the place, pieces being ripped off, shrapnel flying everywhere. It was fantastic. That's just what Robot Wars is all about, isn't it? You have the serious entries, and you have the more eccentric entries, and you've got the ridiculous entries, and it's all part of the fun. That's what it was. It was just solid entertainment value right the way through. So, to sum up, I very greatly enjoyed the first episode, and I'm very much anticipating the next one. I hope this series proves itself a success. Definitely a success, I hope, so as to warrant further series, please. Preferably with more episodes in them as in the past, because this series has 6 episodes. The first series of Old Robot Wars also had 6 episodes, but as it grew in popularity, they thought, let's have more episodes this series, and then more, and then more. And I hope, if it proves itself, we get more episodes next time. That'd be lovely. And who knows, if it does do well, they might get an increased budget too, and we might even see them bring back Sergeant Bash. Please, I would love to see him come back. Maybe if they do bring him back, maybe they'll replace his weapon with something else. I don't know. Maybe they'll just completely redesign him. Who knows? And heck, we need another series. We need another series just to have an excuse to see Razor in action again. Because not a lot happened here. That needs to happen. That absolutely needs to happen. So yeah, well done BBC for even deciding to bring this back. I thought everyone had forgot about Robot Wars. Like, I barely hear anyone talk about it in these interim 12 years. Haven't heard it a lot anyway. But yeah, excellent job. So that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on Robot Wars Reboot. So until next time, whenever that may be, farewell.